boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Monday. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thrilled to be here for the next 2 hours. A lot of baseball off the top here. Muso's going to jump in at 1:30 and chat with us here for a little bit. We do have NFL draft to react to in hour number 2 from a Saints perspective and an LSU perspective. Get you some thoughts on some of the goings on in SEC baseball over the weekend in hour number 2 as well. But we're talking LSU and Bama here at the top. I'm going to take this segment to talk about what happened over the weekend on the field. In 15 minutes, I'm going to go far deeper into the actual state of college baseball. And it's going to be tied into how LSU's pitching right now. And I've got a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, and quite frankly, my lens of how I'm viewing this entire thing kind of changed over the weekend as I'm watching LSU and Bama, and as well as digging into the stats that I dug into. So I'll get to that in 15 minutes, but let's start with LSU and Bama off the top. Tigers win on Friday by the final score of 8-6. Tigers were in basically total control of the game. Paul Skeens was very, very good. And then things got a little hairy there in the ninth inning. Griffin Herring had some trouble getting the final out, and Bryce Collins had to come in. The game was actually replayed on SEC Network on Saturday. And I looked up at one point. LSU was up 8-2 with 2 strikes and 2 outs in the ninth inning. And I looked up and went, God, this really went south from here, didn't it? But they found a way to get it done. Bryce Collins came in, figured out, so LSU wins game 1 and game 2. Alabama gets out to a 6-1 lead, and Ty Floyd was not very good, and LSU's offense bashed their way back, and a stampede of relievers came in with some mixed results, but overall pretty good, only allowing the 2 earned runs, and you end up winning a 12-8 ball game in a slugfest. And then in game 3, Alabama puts a big threat together in the first inning. They're only able to get 1 run. LSU takes a lead. Then Bama's bats kind of explode, but the Tigers go for a 6th spot in the 5th and then put 2 more on the board in the 7th and 8th. Bama struck near with 2 runs in the 9th, but the Tigers got it done behind Riley Cooper, and they get a sweep of Alabama. And so, look, right now you look up and you're 15-5, and that puts you in an awesome position. Your RPI is 3. It's fantastic. Your strength of schedule is 7. You've got wins over some of the top teams in the RPI. You got 13 quad 1 wins. You are basically a slam dunk to be a national seed and play your baseball games at home until Omaha. That's as good as you can do in the regular season. Whether you're the number 1 overall seed or the number 8 overall seed, that's really all you're playing for the first 56 games plus a conference tournament. Then it gets real, and you've just put yourself in position to do whatever it is that you're going to do. So overall, big picture, LSU is in a great spot. Some of the talking points from the weekend that I'm sure you would like to hear about. Paul Skeens' pitch count is certainly one. He was only able to get through 6 innings on Friday because the pitch count got up to 109. And it's not because he's getting lit up. He gave up 5 hits and a run. And it's not because he's walking people. He didn't have a walk on Friday. His pitch count gets elevated because teams don't put the ball in play very often, which is not really fixable because he does 100 miles an hour. And 2, because I don't believe he's utilizing the slider well enough as a put-away pitch to shorten at bats. This is my key. I get asked, well, how does Skeens get his pitch count lowered? You're just not going to throw a lot of 100-mile-an-hour fastballs that get put in play really quickly. It's just the reality of the situation. He can't pitch to contact at 100. That's hard to hit. What he can do, in my opinion, to limit his pitch count is to put guys away early in the count with the slider. You get 0-2, 1-2, bam, slider, see ya. Throw it for a strike, bury it. Use it as a put away. The more fastball you go, 100-mile-an-hour fastball, one, is not going to get squared up very often, which is a blessing. Two, is going to get fouled off a ton because guys are shortening up and they can't get the barrel to it, but they foul it off and they stay alive. That's not going to happen as much with a slider, I don't think. So for me, the key for Skeen's pitch count to get lowered, put guys away with the slider. You've got to trust you can use that. We've got right now, if you're LSU, 3 weekends plus a conference tournament where basically you can experiment with whatever you want. You're not going to lose enough games over the next 3 weeks to knock yourself out of the top 8. Not the way this offense churns. So try something. Try the slider a little bit more often. If you walk a guy and you give up 5 runs, who cares? Try the slider. That's what I want to see from Paul Skeens. Ty Floyd, not very good in the game on Saturday. Look, he comes out there and he gives up 2 runs in the first inning. That didn't bother as much. The kid jumps on the leadoff hitter, Jarvis. It's a home run, whatever. What I can't have is in the 3rd inning, he's got 2 outs and nobody on. He walks a guy, walks another guy. Then Trey Morgan doesn't make a catch on a ball that I think he probably should have caught coming in. It scored a double, and that's the correct scoring, whatever. But he's coming in on the baseball. He probably should have caught it. He did. Okay, whatever. And then he throw a wild pitch. 2 walks and a wild pitch. No, you can't do it. Can't do it. Cannot do it. That's my problem with Ty Floyd there. It's not the 6 hits. It's a 2 walks and a wild pitch with nobody out and nobody on. You've got to tighten that up. So the progress that we hoped Ty Floyd had made against Ole Miss, where I came on here on Monday and said, look, you watch that game. Ty Floyd had success against Ole Miss because they refused to lay off the fastball up in the strike zone up near the letters. And his fastball plays really well up there. And Ole Miss wouldn't lay off it. They kept swinging at it, and he kept throwing it there, and he kept striking him out. Alabama got the ball down in the zone a little bit more. They drew a couple of walks. They hit some balls hard, and they got him out of the ball game. I'll talk about that a little bit more in this segment that's coming up in 7 minutes about what the way I'm looking at LSU's pitching staff. But that wasn't great. On the pitching side, that was good. Javen Coleman's showing some real stuff right now. He came into the game on Saturday, gave you 2 1/3 hitless innings. Now, he did walk 3 guys, which I didn't love, but 2 1/3 hitless innings with 6 strikeouts. He's throwing 93 miles an hour, 94 at times. The slider got some looking strike 3s. That's real stuff. We're trying to put this staff together, find anybody we can to give us any outs here or there. Javen Coleman, I liked what I saw. Thatcher Hurd was called on late in the game. Goes an inning and 2/3, doesn't allow a hit. Got a strikeout, didn't walk anybody. I like that. That's a couple of nice outings in a row from Thatcher Hurd. And I think there are a lot of people going, okay, can he be the closer? This team is so far from designating somebody to get the last 3 outs of every win, it's not even funny. They got to find anybody that can go out there and get outs at the current moment. We're not designating bullpen roles right now. That's not the way this is going. So as much as it sounds great to have a closer that comes in the 9th inning and they play the walkout song and he comes out there and slams the door, this team doesn't have that. So the answer is Thatcher Hurd the closer now is no. Now, can Thatcher Hurd get the last 3 outs tomorrow in Hammond if LSU's got a lead? Sure. Can Thatcher Hurd get the last 3 outs, the last 5 outs on Friday against Auburn? Sure, maybe, but it's not designated that way. You just got to find guys where you can find them. Offensively, this team is just a freight train. There's not really any way I can otherwise put it. Dylan Cruz over the weekend goes 6 for 10 with 4 walks. He was on base 10 times in 3 games. He drove in 8 runs, had 5 runs scored. He hit a pair of homers. He was the SEC Player of the Week. He's sensational. Tommy White's clubbing homers. Hayden Travinsky's turned into Brad Cressy for a week. He's bashing 3-run bombs in Oxford. He's crushing homers on Saturday, pimping them. Only got into the third row, by the way. I need like to clear the bleachers if we're going to be that. If we're going to show that much reaction, I need it to clear the bleachers. But it's good to see from Travinsky. Milazzo's driving in 2 runs with a single. I mean, every person that comes up in this lineup is delivering. It's a treat to watch. The one concern I have offensively, and it's not a crippling thing for the team, but I will tell you this: since Gavin Dugas dove in the outfield against Kentucky and hurt his shoulder and was writhing in pain in the outfield, he's 4 for 26. And it's not all that noticeable because the other guys are picking him up and they're still scoring a ton of runs. But 4 out of 26 is 154. He's not healthy. You got a month. Hopefully, if he needs to take a couple of days off, he needs to take a couple of days off. That's not the way he's wired. He wants to be out there. But if you need to give Napolt and Merrifield a couple of games, again, goes back to the point I'm making about Paul Skeens. Like, you've got time to rest guys and experiment with things. You've created such a cushion with where you sit right now that you can try things. And that's not necessarily an experiment, but if Gavin Dugas needs 4 days off where he's not diving in the outfield or taking swings or sliding into bases or throwing the ball, he needs to take that. Again, he's a warrior. He wants to be out there playing. But he is slumping a little bit. Nobody else seems to be. It's just, I mean, LSU in the game on Friday scored 8. In the game on Saturday scored 12, so that's 20, and they put 13. That's 33 runs in 3 games against an Alabama team that was top 5 in the league in pitching coming in. And I'll say this about Bama. Watching them, looking at them statistically, looking at where their resume sits right now, they scream regional 2 seed. Scream it. That's exactly the type of team that's going to come into the box on regional time. They're going to have decent pitching, some guys who can hurt you offensively, and LSU should be better than. I mean, that's what a 2 seed's going to look like. That could be what a super regional opponent looks like. It's just a solid team. Got a lot of veterans, decent arms, and LSU just straight up overwhelmed them, as they've done with just about everybody. They haven't lost a weekend yet. So that's kind of an overview of LSU and Bama. I'll get Musso in here in 20 minutes to see what he thinks. But I spent some time on this coming up in this next segment. And it's something that through a gut feeling and then research, I changed my view of this LSU baseball team over the last 24 hours. I'll tell you why that happened coming up next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're
for Tuesdays Off the Bench, as T-Bob Hebert is back from wherever he was on Monday. Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football joins the show to talk Saints, and we have a new OTB mailbag. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Matt Musso is going to jump on in 15 minutes talking Tiger baseball here. Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your Monday's off to a great start. So this segment was born in Saturday's baseball game. When Ty Floyd left the game after 2 2/3 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits, walked 4 guys, and I think a lot of the fan base in that moment, you're in the middle of a competition, you're in the middle of a game, Bama's knocking it all over the place, and there's probably plenty of you that looked at that and said, man, this team just doesn't have the pitching. They just don't have the weekend rotation. They don't have the pitching. They have one guy. That's not enough. I mean, there's probably a lot of you listening that felt that way. And I didn't feel totally different. LSU's starting rotation in SEC play has not been very good. Skeens has been brilliant. Floyd's been underwhelming. And you've had a revolving door on the back end that's now Christian Little trying to get you 9, 10, 12 outs. It hasn't looked like what you want your weekend rotation in your mind to look like. That looks like Lang, Poche, Walker, or some form of that. And this team has not looked like that. And so the question becomes raised, okay, is LSU good enough pitching to win a national championship? That's all anyone cares about, right? So as I'm thinking about this, and I tried to sit back and get away from the fact that I'm looking at a 6-1 ball game that LSU's losing, and I'm just thinking, okay, I follow this thing pretty closely. It feels like a lot of teams have struggling rotations. It doesn't feel like a lot of teams are playing tight games in terms of low-scoring games. It feels like offense is kind of ruling the day. That's what it felt like. I said, okay, well, I got to go look at it. I got to go look it up. Let me go look at stats. So here I did. I spent 2.5 hours yesterday before I went out to the box on statistics and how other teams are faring, because we get in this bubble. We get in this purple and gold Baton Rouge bubble, and we don't see anything else. So here's a little bit of context for what is going on in college baseball. And my gut instinct turned out to be backed up by statistics. So here's what I did. I took the top 5 teams in the SEC in ERA. I don't really care what's going on in the Big West. I don't care what's going on in the Big Ten. I'm not that interested in the Southland Conference. I don't really care about the WAC. The best teams in the country are in the SEC. What's going on in the Southeastern Conference? Tennessee's got the best ERA in the league. South Carolina's 2nd, Vanderbilt's 3rd, Bama's 4th, and Kentucky's 5th. Those are the top 5 teams in the SEC in ERA. LSU, incidentally, is 6th. But those are the top 5. I said, okay, I just made up a number. How often are the top ERA teams in the Southeastern Conference holding SEC teams that don't care about your midweek games when you're not throwing your real guys and you're facing inferior competition? In league games, how often are you holding teams to 4 runs or fewer? Tennessee leads the conference in ERA. They have held their opponents in SEC play to 4 runs or fewer 5 times in 21 games. 5. South Carolina's 2nd in the league in ERA. They have held their opponents to 4 runs or less in SEC games 8 times. 8 out of 20. Vanderbilt, Bama, Kentucky are all at 11 or 12 out of 21, about half. And oh, by the way, I'll throw a caveat in there. The numbers are what they are, but if we're really counting this thing, Kentucky, 3 of their 11, 3 times out of the 11 times they held a team to 4 runs or less was Missouri when they swept them. Bama, 3 times, Missouri. South Carolina, 2 of their 8, Missouri. But still, you get the point. Tennessee almost never holds their opponent under 4 runs, or 4 runs or under. South Carolina, 8 out of 20. The other teams, about half the time, they can keep you to 4 runs or less. I'm not asking for a shutout, 4 runs or less. And then I started looking at individual pitchers. I think you all be familiar with these names. I don't care what they did in February against some team I never heard of. What are you doing in the league against SEC teams that are going to be in the NCAA tournament? Remember Brandon Sproat, Florida's Friday guy? Florida's as good a team as there is in the country. What has Brandon Sproat done? I realize numbers don't play great on radio, but you'll get the point. Brandon Sproat's made 7 SEC starts. His ERA is 5.05. He's given up 23 earned runs in 41 innings. But his ERA is 5.05. Hurston Waldrop, remember him last year, Southern Miss? Looked incredible against LSU, throwing that nasty split change, 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Well, what's his numbers in SEC play? He's made 7 starts. His ERA is 5.18. He's given up 7 homers in 7 starts. Chase Dolander, he was the SEC Pitcher of the Year last year. What are his numbers? Well, in league play, 7 starts, he's 2-3 with a 5.35 ERA. Strikeout numbers are good, 41 in 35 innings, but he's giving up runs, 21 earned runs. Hunter Holland, you remember him? Arkansas, left-hander, tied LSU in knots in game 1 of that series. They beat Paul Skeens. Well, what's Hunter Holland done since he left Baton Rouge? His ERA in SEC games is north of 6. North of 6. Will Sanders, he's South Carolina's ace. South Carolina's top 5 in the country. He's their ace. What are his SEC numbers? Well, he's made 6 starts. His ERA is 6.82. 6.82. They're a College World Series threat. Carter Holton, he's Vanderbilt's ace. He goes out there on Fridays. What's he doing in SEC games? 6 starts. He's 3-0, unbeaten. 4.45 ERA. Fine. It's not, but 4.45. Here are your ERAs that I just rolled out. Brandon Sproat, 5.05. Waldrop, 5.18. Dolander, 5.35. Holland, north of 6 since he left Baton Rouge. Will Sanders, 6.82. Carter Holton, 4.45. I don't think you need me to go through Ole Miss's pitching stats. You know that Texas A&M doesn't have anybody that can pitch. Let's look at the offensive side of things. I just gave you all the aces. I gave you the top ERA team. Let's look through the offensive numbers. Do you remember the 2017 Fighting Tigers of LSU? They went to the national final. They lost to Florida. Because they went as far as you can go, sans one game, they played 72 ball games that year. Had some pretty good hitters on that team. Greg Deichmann hit 19 homers. Zach Watson, good college hitter. Michael Papierski played in Major League Baseball, hit 11 home runs that year. Kramer Robertson's had Major League at-bats. Josh Smith's in the big leagues. He was on that team. Pretty good offensive team. They hit 69 home runs that year. 69 homers for that team. Nice offense. As of today, no one has played a baseball game in May. As of today, 7 SEC teams have already blown past that number that team hit in a full season. 7 of the 14 SEC teams. And by the way, Arkansas and Ole Miss are going to go by it this week. That'll be 9 of the 14 will have passed that 2017 LSU team in home runs. That team hit 69 homers. Right now, Florida's got 93. LSU's got 85. Tennessee's got 93. South Carolina's got 94. The freshman home run record has already fallen in April at South Carolina and Alabama. Jack Caglione, who has 25 home runs this year, is going to hit 30 this year. Here's the deal. Here's why I bring all these stats up. Here's why I tell you what the top 5 teams in the SEC and ERA are doing in holding opponents under 4 runs. It doesn't happen very often. The aces in this league at the best teams, all their ERAs are over 5 in SEC games. Statistically speaking, teams are shattering home run records. They've changed the baseball, and it's Gorilla Ball season. Now, I started this segment asking the question, is LSU's pitching good enough to win a national championship? The answer is yes. And I tell you that because all those SEC ERAs I rattled off that are all over 5, I know a guy who isn't. Paul Skeens is sub 3. In an era of college baseball where they have ushered back in Gorilla Ball and offenses ruling the sport, LSU has the best offense and the best pitcher. You're just going to have to hit your way through this thing. It's not going to look the way that you want it to look in your head. You want your ace to go out there and Aaron Nola, Alex Lang, Paul Skeens it, and you want your number 2 to go out there and Lewis Coleman it or Jared Poche it. And that would be great. And I'm not telling you it's impossible. What I'm telling you is no one else is doing this either. Maybe Wake. I haven't seen them play an SEC game. It's not comfortable. And I'm not suggesting that LSU's pitching is good, or that it's in great shape. They have issues. There are concerns. I don't like Ty Floyd coming out in the 3rd inning. I don't like the issues they've had in the bullpen with some walks and inconsistency and not a guy that you feel like you can always go to get the job done. They're not perfect and they're not great. What I'm telling you is, for me personally, over the weekend when I started digging into these numbers, my lens of the entire sport and what pitching staffs look like changed. There is a reason LSU has won every weekend they have played, sans the split with South Carolina. It's because this is an offensive sport, and LSU's offense is the best. And their ace is the best. Ty Floyd's got to be better than he was on Saturday. Riley Cooper's ERA needs to come under 6. Christian Little's got to continue to take his steps. You need Javen Coleman to continue to progress. Griffin Herring looks like he's finding his sea legs. But just because LSU doesn't have a number 2 starter that's consistently working into the 7th inning doesn't mean they're way back behind the sport. No, quite the contrary. They're just dealing with the same issues everybody else is. So to answer the question that I initially proposed here, is LSU's pitching staff, as currently constructed, good enough to win a national championship? Unequivocally, yes. Now, it's likely that at the end of this thing, LSU doesn't win the national championship, and you can come back and point and say, well, they never had the pitching because they got beat in the last game. And you would not be wrong in that assertion. But you've got the odds stacked very heavily in your favor if the only outcome that's acceptable is winning the national championship. I'll tell you this, they got as good a chance to win the national championship as anybody out there. It's Gorilla Ball. That's the sport now. And LSU's got gorillas. They were unleashed this weekend against a team that's 4th in the SEC in ERA that gave up 33 runs. So that is, I think, a discussion that a lot of people around here are having. we're right now not going to be in a position to talk about a bunch of RPI stuff and quad one wins and road wins. And that stuff doesn't matter because LSU's got such a cushion. That's not really the conversation. The conversation is, can they win the whole thing? Yes, is the answer. Period. Will they? Probably not. Do they have as good a chance as anybody out there? Yeah. We'll see what Musso thinks. He'll join us next on Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Join us for the Tuesday edition of Handy Time. Dwayne Colucci with us from South Point Rampart in Las Vegas. The NBA and NHL into the second round of the playoffs. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Let's go to Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day. Does LSU have enough pitching to win the national championship? Yes, no. Pretty simple. We'll put that up and see the results at the end of the show. Matthew Musso's jumped aboard. You can answer the question. Does LSU have enough pitching to win the national championship?
They do. I think that they do. It's listen to your segment in your last segment, and it's just different now. The ball is juiced. The strike zone is smaller.
Yes, that's true.
The strike zone is more akin to Major League Baseball, which is stupid because this is not Major League Baseball. It's college baseball. But that's another conversation. And all of that's forcing more offense back into the game. I did something similar to what you did in your last segment on Moose with the Box earlier today. You have to force yourself to look at this differently with LSU this year. It's so deep. Just because it doesn't look the way it's supposed to doesn't mean there isn't good. There was really good out of your bullpen on Saturday. It's why you won the game. There was really bad out of your bullpen on Sunday. It didn't matter because you have the best offense in the country. That was my main takeaway this weekend, Hunt, is they can beat you in so many different ways. They're armed better than anyone else in the country right now. They can go to the ballpark, beat you, come back the next day, and beat you totally different. It happened Saturday, it happened Sunday, and it's going to continue to happen in the future. It's why they haven't lost a weekend yet at all. Everyone wanted to put South Carolina number one in the country. South Carolina's lost 2 weekends. They've lost 2 weekends.
Me, I put them first in my power rankings last week.
But it's the same thing. I can understand why. Like, I get it. Yeah. I can get it. That team's lost 2 weekends. Yeah. Vanderbilt got swept.
Yep.
Florida got swept.
Yep.
This team, through all their black eyes that we all see, all the deficiencies, haven't lost yet. And until they do, the only answer is yes, they can do, because you have been given no reason, win-loss wise, to believe that they can't.
No, as we sit here and look at things purely through purple and gold lens and go, man, how are we supposed to get these 27 outs?
Yeah.
How are we supposed to get through this weekend? You realize somebody's on the other side going, I got to get 27 outs too against those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the discussion shifts.
It is. I mean, because it's I hate using the phrase it's modern baseball, but it's modern baseball. I mean, it's kind of the same thing in the major leagues, right? Strikeouts are up, home runs and offense are up.
There's a reason Kentucky's going to lose their last 6 SEC series.
Exactly.
Because they can't hit home runs and they bunt. And that's not, you can't.
That's
can't
not
keep
what
up.
you do.
You
and LSU plays gorilla ball really well. When you have Dylan Cruz and Tommy White back to back in that order, it's a cheat code. It should be illegal. It's not, and thank goodness.
It's very fun.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's probably my favorite thing of the entire season, besides Paul Skeens shoving 102 down people's throats.
How does Paul Skeens get his pitch count down?
That's a great question. So I looked at that too. I think it's different, right? I think it's different circumstances. Against Ole Miss, I just don't think he had his best stuff. And I think that ran his pitch count up. Against Alabama, I think that's a really deep 1 through 9 lineup that's veteran, and they made him work. He went 7 innings against Tennessee. He threw 107 pitches. That's 2 less pitches than he threw against Alabama. Mm-hmm. So that pitch count can get you there. I think they made him exert earlier in the ball game. He was at 55 pitches, I think, after 3. If he can get through some of those early innings lower, a little bit more efficient, and I don't think you have to sacrifice strikeouts either. He struck out 12 against Tennessee, throwing 107 pitches. I just think it needs to be a little bit more economical. But I give Alabama more credit than him not having his stuff. I actually thought he looked really, really good. And if he goes and does that against Auburn, I think the pitch count is lower, and you have a shot to get him into the 7th.
I think he needs to put people away with a slider. He throws a lot of he throws a lot of 2-strike fastballs that gets fouled off because it's 100 and they're just shortening up, and that drives it up. Just wipe him out. Throw the slider. He leans on the fastball a lot. How does Floyd? What was different with Floyd against Ole Miss? The other ones have kind of all looked the same: 4 or 5 innings, 4 or 5 runs, and against Ole Miss, he was way better. Was it just that Ole Miss is not very good, or is there something he can draw from on that?
I don't think it was that Ole Miss wasn't very good. I mean, Ole Miss, they were hitting 3-0, just below, or 297 or something like that as a team going in. That's a very good lineup. For me with Ty Floyd, what's his best pitch? His best pitch is his fastball. Mm-hmm. It has been since he stepped foot on campus. It always will be. And it's a very good fastball. It's got a lot of carry to it, plays up in the zone very well. You saw that against Ole Miss. He nailed that fastball up in the zone, and they couldn't lay off of it. It's so enticing, has the late run, that rise almost to it. It's a great pitch. When he hasn't had that, his secondary stuff's not good enough to dominate a lineup. I'm not saying Ty Floyd needs to go out there and throw 80% fastballs. That's not what I'm saying. But he has to be able to pitch off of it and has to have it consistently. I thought against Alabama, it looked like you were going to be set up for a Ty Floyd outing we've seen a lot this year, where he struggles early, settles in, gets you into the fifth, maybe a little further like Tennessee, like the Tennessee and Arkansas series. And then he just lost the strike zone completely with nobody on and 2 outs in the third inning and couldn't get out. I thought the fastball was very inconsistent from him. If he has that, specifically the top of the zone, consistently, he can pitch off of it and get you 5 innings.
A couple of offensive questions. Dugas, since the injury, is 4 for 26. Does he need to sit for a little bit, or do you need to just got to gut it out? I mean, I don't think he's healthy.
I don't think he is either. I mean, I think you can see that. I think the one thing it's really taken away is the power in his swing, which is a bummer because that was back this year, and it was a lot of fun to watch, especially in clutch situations. I mean, you can think about Dolander, you can think about the Grand Slam. If you're going to sit him, I'd sit him in a midweek game. I think you need him in there on the weekend for a number of reasons.
He does get on base.
He's still getting on base. He's getting hit. He's working walks. He's coming up with a hit here or there. And the veteran presence. I mean, that's number 8. That's one of your senior leaders. So if you're going to sit him, be like, just chill, rest up, I think the midweek game is the place to do that and just have him ready to go on the weekend.
Kling homered yesterday. He's back in action. Where does he fit in? Is he an everyday player? Are we still juggling the Joe Bear, Jones, Morgan, Beloso kind of day-to-day thing?
So let me know if you agree with this. Until this weekend, I thought it would be really hard to justify taking Braden Jobe out of the lineup because he was hitting 300.
Mm-hmm.
And it was what Jay had always talked about, right? The at-bats in between the homers had to be better, and they were. They weren't this weekend, and you saw Pearson and then Kling respectively. If Paxton Kling is healthy and ready to go, and I have no reason to believe he's not after yesterday, where he's booking it around third on the Milazzo single, then homers. Like, he looked great. Hamstring looks fine. I'd like to see him get some run. You can alternate it lefty-righty if you want, but Josh Pearson, I love the kid. I'm a huge fan. It just hasn't been as consistent this year as it was last. It's hard to justify putting him in there on a consistent basis with that. Paxton Kling, before the A&M series and before the injury, was starting to find himself in college baseball. I'd like to see him get another run at it. Yeah.
Where are you with catcher? I mean, Travinsky's hitting, Milazzo's hitting. It's not a situation you would think with those two guys where you're not getting offensive production. You actually are, but Milazzo obviously gives you more as a defensive player.
Defensive player, for sure. So catcher is one of my favorite positions to talk about. Do you remember Media Day, Hunt, when Jay was asked about how do you have this much talent? How do you keep everybody happy, right? And he went on his long answer and referenced Mikey Matuk and Austin Nola in 2009 and how those guys didn't start in the starting. They just waited their time. They never stopped working. You're going to have guys on this team do that. Alex Milazzo and Hayden Travinsky are those two guys. Like Cade Beloso too. But they're program guys from Louisiana who would rather play for the name on the front of the jersey than the back. The old cliche, right? Mm-hmm. But those guys, all they've been through in the program, see Brady Neal at 17, who's a great player, come in and take their spot, and they don't get down. And when they're called upon, they've been great. Milazzo's been the RBI single he had was the game-winning hit. It was the game-winning hit.
I was sitting there talking to Moscona. We were at the game. I said they need to go to Travinsky. He was like, "No, Milazzo's fine."
And he
dumped it into the outfield.
And he was. And Travinsky, all he does, is hit, go ahead 3-run homers apparently. So, I'm here for that, especially when you turn 97 around from a lefty. That was filthy. But I think you're in great shape there. Plus, you also have Jared Jones who can catch and Ethan Fry who can catch. It's a great position to have. That's why it's one of my favorite ones. It demonstrates the depth and the mindset of this team, I think, better than any position on the field. So I think you see the platoon keep going. What's interesting is they've had Travinsky catch Floyd, and I wonder if there's something, if they're trying to find something there. We'll wait and see. But I think you can do both. You can start Milazzo; he's more than capable right now, and you can treat Travinsky like you're treating Brady Neal, where have him start, get his ABs, Milazzo defensive replacement, and it works out well.
Tell them where they can find Musso at the Box.
Musso at the Box, anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google. Really just search Musso at the Box. It'll pop up. It's everywhere. We appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Drop it every day, Monday through Friday. Alabama Recap is up right now.
It's about to get really fun. We got a couple of weeks to get through where they're not really playing for anything, but it's about to get real fun. With
Home stretch.
Appreciate it. Get back to work. Moscona's going to put you to work here in an hour and change. He is Matt Musso. You can hear him as the producer on AFR or on Musso at the Box. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. How much different would your living situation be if you had the bathroom of your dreams? That can happen. David Duvall and his team have been in the game for 30 years renovating and redesigning bathrooms. If you want to do a full-scale renovation, you don't have to call 14 contractors. Just call one. You call One Bath and Closets. They get it done for you. It may be a full-scale renovation. It may just be a tub-to-shower conversion. You pull that tub out of your bathroom, put it in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Changes the aesthetic of your bathroom and the functionality of it as well. On the closet side, if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you, they're not going to charge you for the labor to rip out your current closet or for the labor to install the new one. They're just going to charge you for the cost of that unit, a customized closet for you. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gonna put a bow on hour number 1 here on this Monday. Hope your work week is off to a good start. We got NFL draft to talk about at the top of hour number 2. What did the Saints do? What happened to the LSU guys? I'm actually gonna pull back my segment from Thursday give you where I had LSU's players going and see how I did on those projections entering the NFL draft. I got a reaction to the SEC in baseball coming up at 2:30, so loads and loads to get to. But I'm going to kind of shove into the corner here at the end of this hour one little segment on a national story. For me, most of the time, my sports viewing is directly tied with my rooting interest. I don't watch a ton of Pac-12 football. I don't turn on the Ohio State-Indiana game on Saturdays in the fall. Like, once game day ends, I find the SEC game. I'm going to watch Ole Miss, Western Kentucky before I watch Purdue, Penn State. Maybe a flaw. It's just because I care about the SEC. My team is in the SEC. That's where my rooting interest lays. I don't just absolutely live and die with the NFL because I don't have a team in the NFL. Same goes with the NBA. I watch a ton of college baseball. I watch a ton of SEC football. I watch a lot of Major League Baseball because the Cubs are in there. Like, I watch more so for my rooting interest than like storylines and national superstars and that kind of thing. Like, that's just my sports experience. And it's crazy when someone or something can transcend that. And Steph Curry does. Like, I love watching him play. I may not even watch the Knicks and Heat in their next game. Like, if I see it, it's on, or maybe I catch it in the third quarter, maybe. It's not going to be appointment viewing for me. But Steph Curry is. And I don't know if what he did last night was the most efficient thing we've ever seen. It took him 38 shots to get there. But him going for 50 points in a Game 7 on the road is absurd. And it's not even the production. It's the way he goes about it. It's the constant running off screens the entire time he's out there. It's the unbelievable hesitation dribble ability that puts NBA guards on skates. It's the quick release and the ball popping through the net. He really revolutionized the sport. There aren't that many things in sport that you can point to and say, he is the greatest to ever do it. You want to tell me who the best golfer is? It can be argued. You want to tell me who the best hitter of all time is? We'll argue it all day. Who's the best pitcher ever? Well, we can have a discussion about that. You cannot debate the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. It can't be done. In terms of percentages, longevity, attempts and makes, points. And at one time, I think he was just a shooter, which to me is kind of fun to watch, but he became a long time ago this force of a scorer that the floor literally gravitates to where he is on it. He occupies the minds of everybody on the floor because he does things that nobody in the sport was doing 20 years ago. Like, Reggie Miller was a good shooter. Did you worry about him, pulling up from 35, 45 feet? No. And then not even the on-court stuff that he does. It's the stuff he does in, like, trick shot videos on Twitter. Go look those up on YouTube where he makes, like, 15 in a row. He shoots for, like, and he's shooting high arcing shots from the free throw line that go 25 feet in the air. Splash. Throwing it from the tunnel with one hand. Splash. That was a show that he put on against Sacramento. 50 points. Put up 18 threes. As a guy who once hoisted 18 threes in a single high school basketball game, I can respect that. Gotta love a 2-3 zone. Team comes out in 2-3, I'm chucking it. When I talk about percentages and makes here, but I put up 18 threes in a game. Man, Sacramento, what a fun season for an organization that's been so bad for so long. And then to have it on your home floor and have the greatest shooter ever come in and just light you on fire for 50, that's a tough scene. And Musso was in here a second ago, and he's like, oh, I got to turn ESPN off for the next week and a half. I can't do LeBron, Steph Curry, 24 hours a day for a week and a half. But that's what ESPN's likely going to gravitate to. The draft's in the rearview mirror. They were heavy on that. It's going to be heavy on LeBron and Steph. And even LeBron doesn't do it to me. I think he's one of the 2 or 3 greatest players to ever play. The passing is unbelievable. The scoring ability, the strength, the athleticism, everything LeBron does is incredible. None of it catches my attention and garners my interest like watching Steph Curry play a basketball game. I am thrilled. I did get to go to one Warriors-Pelicans game 4 or 5 years ago and saw Steph, and really the Splash Brothers, Clay was there too, put on a show. Glad I saw it with my own eyes. It was a lot of guys in Sacramento that want to burn their eyes out after what they watched last night as Golden State wins by 20 and moves on in the NBA playoffs. All right, that'll do it for hour number 1. Opened up talking about LSU and Bama baseball. And then my 1:15 segment, I suggest you go back and listen to it. I laid out a lot of statistics about the evolution of college baseball and where the sport is right now. And it is an offensive force right now, and that's what LSU does. And there's a reason that a lot of ERAs are inflated. I went through SEC aces. I went through SEC pitching staffs. I went through the numbers. It's an offensive sport, and that is a reason why LSU's pitching does not look the way that we want it to look, I think. Went through that at 1:15. Musso jumped on at 1:30. Tons and tons of baseball, so go back and listen on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. It is all right there for your listening and viewing pleasure. When we come back after Sports Center, a lot to get to. We'll open things up talking about the Saints picks. Did they hit their marks? Did they fill some holes they needed to fill? Where did the LSU guys end up in the draft? My thoughts on those picks, plus where I had them forecasted last Thursday. And we'll get a reaction to what went on in the SEC in baseball. There's been a firing today. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. Come back with us after Sports Center. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $15,000 off all new 2022 1500 SCA trucks. And all new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. 76ers center Joel Embiid is still listed as doubtful for Game 1 of their second-round NBA playoff series tonight against the Celtics with that sprained knee. If Embiid can't play in Games 1 or 2 in Boston, or he's hampered, the Celtics will make life extremely difficult for James Harden as he tries to carry the load for Philly, believes ESPN's Tim Legler.
I think Boston has a lot of different perimeter players that you could throw at James Harden, whether it's Brown, Tatum, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, Derek White. All of those guys are elite-level perimeter defenders. And without Embiid, I think that really gives James Harden a very tall order to try to get his team a win in Boston if Embiid does not play or he is limited.
Two of the best words in sports. Game 7, Devils and Rangers finish off the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs with a winner-take-all matchup tonight, 8 Eastern on ESPN TV. New Jersey, a -120 favorite to win tonight, has dropped the last 2 Game 7s to New York in 1992 and 94. NFL, the Bills signed veteran running back Latavius Murray, adding experience to their running back room, and the Broncos picked up the 5th-year rookie option on receiver Jerry Jeudy.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hunt Palmer with you. Glad to be so. NFL draft wrapped up over the weekend. Now it's time to kind of look at what the Saints did. We talked about Brian Brzee on Friday. I told you I thought that was a obvious position of need, and I thought a strong pick. Sir, there's injury concerns. No, he hasn't been some kind of elite pass rusher from the interior, but he's a big guy. He's a good athlete. He figures to plug right in to a totally overhauled defensive line, and I think we'll get a lot of reps early on, and you hope that that's a hit at a significant position of need for these New Orleans Saints. But what did they do the rest of the draft? Well, it started in the second round where they take Isaiah Foskey. And this needs to be a hit, because if Foskey is what he profiles to be, it's a necessity on a great football team. And Cam Jordan has been awesome in New Orleans for over a decade. Awesome. And he's been very good in terms of productivity the last 2 years. 21 sacks between 2 years. But as I've said a couple times last week, I don't expect him to have 21 sacks the next 2 years. And if you're counting on Tano Passanio or one of those guys to be your force off the edge, they're using the term closer now with your pass rush specialists, I don't think that's the answer. Foskey needs to be the answer. This needs to be the force off the edge. The guy that the defense has to account for. The guy that finishes the game with his pass rush. And, man, is it impressive to look at on tape. He's 6'5", 260, led Notre Dame last year in tackles for loss with 12.5. He had 11 sacks. And one stat I love on Foskey is 6 forced fumbles last year, tied for the national lead in forced fumbles. That's the skill set you want. This needs to be the next great pass rusher for the Saints. What did we say entering the draft? Like, the way the salary cap looks for the Saints, and you manipulate it and you get under it, but it makes the draft so important because they're not getting monster free agents outside of Derek Carr. They're adding depth pieces here or there. Got a couple of defensive linemen. You go get a running back. But your next group of stars needs to come from the draft. You need to hit on your first-round pick. You need to hit on your second-round pick. I love the profile for Foskey. Let's see what he can be, because that's a vital part of a good team is to have great pass rush. And I think Cam Jordan can give you some of that for sure, but you need some more help, and I think that Foskey gives you that. We knew at some point they had to address running back. You can't just roll out there with Jamal Williams and whatever you can get from Kamara. You got to go find running backs. Third round, they take a running back in Kendre Miller from TCU, number 71 overall. Miller, 5'11", 215. Last year for TCU, ran for 1,400 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, had 17 touchdowns. He was not involved much in the passing game. 16 catches. That's something that he needs to incorporate more into his game. Miller looks just to be a solid back to me. I don't see game-breaking speed. I don't see a guy who makes a lot of people miss in the open field. I don't see some sort of freakish athlete. I see a guy who was durable in college, who was productive in college, who looks to be solid, and that's fine. You've got some real weapons in your offense. Kamara's still that when he's out there. I love Olave. I think that Michael Thomas has a chance. And you've got some guys that can be your home run hitters, so to say. Shaheed, sure. I don't think that Miller is that. I just think he's a solid back who should make the team. Nick Saldiveri was their 4th-round pick from Old Dominion. They traded up. That was the line. I told y'all this on Thursday, but I'll refresh. I got a text on Thursday draft day from a buddy that said, "Hey, can't wait for the Saints to trade up and draft some lineman from a school I never heard of." Not that my friend's never heard of Old Dominion. I'm sure that he has. But there was the trade up for lineman in a school that no one's ever heard of. And Saldiveri is 6'6", 318. He, to me, has every quality of Andrew Speed. Tackle in college, can play tackle if absolutely necessary in the NFL, probably an inside player and maybe a 6th man. You don't figure Pete's going to be on the team next year. Saldiveri is your next guy. He was a 3-year right tackle at Old Dominion. He's probably a swing guy. He didn't allow a sack at Old Dominion, and he did go to the Senior Bowl. So a guy that the Saints really, really liked, and hopefully he makes your team as a swing man on this team, and then maybe progresses to a bigger role in year 2 when you got some issues. I mean, Cesar Ruiz, the team option was declined for next year, so you're looking at a couple of guys on expiring contracts you may have to replace. Saldiveri looks to be that guy in the 4th round. Also in the 4th round, they took Jake Haener, the quarterback from Fresno State. He signed with Washington out of high school, was there for a bit, and then went to Fresno and became the starter there. 5-year college player, was all Mountain West. Last year threw for 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 picks. This is, I found it interesting as I was watching some of the draft coverage. You heard that some executives were telling some of the media folk that teams were infatuated with what the 49ers got in Brock Purdy last year. And that's really hard to find, but teams were going to maybe take a swing at that this year. And I don't know how high on the list of needs a quarterback is for the Saints. I think it's probably pretty low, especially for this year. But Jameis moves on. Obviously Carr goes down. you got to have bodies, and they like Haener. He's a little undersized. His arm's okay, but he was a careful and precise thrower in college, and they took him. I don't hate the pick. I don't love the pick. I think quarterback can be very polarizing when you do it. Some people love the opportunity to maybe find the next guy, so you bring a guy in. Some people say, hey, you've got your 2 quarterbacks. You're trying to win. Go get a player that can help you win next year, which I don't think Jake Haener can do. But again, I don't think the Saints are a finished product. I don't think the Saints are a significant Super Bowl contender. If you feel like that's a guy bringing into your program is going to help, and maybe Jameis moves on or whatnot, and you've got your backup quarterback for the next 5 or 6 years, that's fine. I'm not a talent evaluator. I'm not a scout. I can't tell you exactly what Haener is or what the Saints think he is, but it seems fine to me. I have a very lukewarm opinion on the Haener pick. In the 5th round, Jordan Howden, defensive back from Minnesota, physical corner, 6 feet, 203, played a ton of football for Minnesota, 58 college games. I think the Saints secondary is in pretty good shape in terms of numbers and talent. I think Adebo is going to be a good player, even though he didn't quite play the way we thought he would last year. You love what you've got in Lattimore. May is a good player. So I think they really got probably got a good one in Alontae Taylor. So this is not a position of need, I don't think, but it's never a bad spot to add guys because it's a throw-in league and you need to have guys that can cover. So Howden's going to come play DB for him. And then in the 6th round, this looked like a flyer to me. They took A.T. Perry, who was kind of the number 1 option for Sam Hartman at Wake. And he's 6'3", 195 and can run like a deer. He just doesn't catch the ball very well. But he did have 1,000 yards about as a senior. And he has all the size and speed that you want. And again, the Saints have wide receivers. They're not asking A.T. Perry to come in and be their number 1 guy or number 2 or number 3. They're set there. But in the 6th round, I think it's fine enough to take a flyer on a guy who has a significant upside and a 6'3", 195-pound receiver that runs a ton and caught 1,000 yards worth of balls last year is certainly worth a flyer in my opinion. So I think the Saints addressed 2 of their biggest needs, maybe 3 of their biggest needs. Had to have defensive line. You took your first 2 picks defensive line. Love that. Had to have a running back. Took a running back right after that. Then offensive line, especially on the interior, is a bit of a question mark entering the future. You address that as well. Would have loved to have seen a tight end. That would have been, I think, a positive. We'll see what they can do there with undrafted players and whatnot. But you took a flyer on a talent in the late rounds, and I think that's good. And you took a flyer on a quarterback that we'll see if it works out. I think overall, this is a solid draft for the Saints. They made picks. I still believe that it would have been an improper use of resources to trade a bunch of your picks to go up and get 1 guy when your roster looks the way the Saints roster looks right now. It's not a championship roster right now. There are 4, 5, 6 significant holes you need to address as opposed to ditching those picks and turn it into 1 guy who may or may not work out. They didn't do that. They sat back. They traded up a couple times, but nothing huge. And they ended up making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks. That's fine. They don't have 7 roster spots, and a couple of these guys won't make the team. But that's okay. They didn't do anything crazy, which I can't rule out from Mickey and company. I chuckled so hard when on Saturday I'm getting up ready to go out to the farmer's market, and I read that the Saints have traded up to the first pick in day 3. Just couldn't help themselves. After 2 days of some inactivity, day 3, nope, we're going to the front of the line. What do we need to give up? We're coming. But it wasn't anything out of anything crazy, and they went up and got an offensive lineman. So I think solid work by the Saints. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you like I'm a draft expert. I'm not going to sit here and go through all the tape and tell you what every player is or isn't or what their next 5 years are going to look like. The Saints had some needs. I think they addressed almost all of them. Took a couple of flyers on some upside players. I think it's solid work. We'll see what the end result is when that day comes. All right, let's take a timeout. How'd the LSU guys do? And more importantly, maybe, how did I do in forecasting where these LSU players would be picked? That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've been telling you about Dr. Robert Jackson, truly a champion of Louisiana. He founded the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy in Shreveport, and it's now Northwest Louisiana's oldest and free clinic and pharmacy. Clinics like the MLK Health Center and Pharmacy are essential in a state like Louisiana, which has one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. And the clinic operates at no expense to the patient, returns an average of $25 to the community for every $1 invested in the center. Dr. Robert Jackson up in North Louisiana, truly a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell you about him. So go to lwcc.com, nominate them to be a champion of Louisiana, and we will tell their story right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Dr. Robert Jackson, a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville or NOLAFlooring.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal.
Let's go and invite you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We'll recap the NFL draft, and we'll take a look at the LSU Bama baseball series. Join us for Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We got to hold me accountable here. Everything we got's on demand. Everything we got is available to be recorded and replayed. And so I got to be accountable. I can't just lie to you, my listenership. I projected where I thought every LSU player would go in the NFL draft back on Thursday, and now we'll see how I did. The first player I gave you off of LSU's board would be B.J. Ojulari. That in turn Turned out to be right. I had B.J. Ojulari going 42nd overall in the draft. Where did he end up? Number 41. I only missed by one spot on B.J. Ojulari, which is a nice start for me right there. Ojulari goes to the Cardinals. They invest a second-round pick in him, and obviously they expect him to come in and be productive. I talked about B.J. back on Thursday. I said, look, he's a productive player. He's an incredible locker room guy, high-character guy. He checks your boxes. Plus, he plays at a premium position, edge rusher. So thrilled for BJ, headed out to play in Arizona. Second guy I gave you was Anthony Bradford. That was actually the second guy off the board for LSU. I said Anthony Bradford goes 66th. That is early in the third round. He went 108th. He was actually a lot. I missed that by 42 spots. So not a super great pick there. I thought Bradford, as an interior player who's a good athlete and started at LSU, would be a higher pick than he was. He goes to Seattle, where we've seen some LSU linemen over the years. Ethan Posick up there in Seattle. Vidal Alexander, I believe, got chosen. Was it in Seattle at one point? But Bradford heads to Seattle and hopefully can find his way there. I had Jaquelin Roy as my next LSU player off the board, which was actually incorrect. But I had Jaquelin Roy at 81 in this draft. He goes 141. I missed that one by 60 spots. It's like almost 3 rounds. That's 2 rounds worth of being off on Jaquelin Roy. But he goes to the Vikings, and he was the 4th player off the board because Jay Ward was the 3rd guy to come off. I had Jay Ward going 140th. He goes 134th. I only missed by 6 spots there, which was a solid go. So I had Ojulari and Ward pegged pretty tight, was significantly off on Bradford and Roy. I was also really close on Kayshawn. I had Kayshawn going 179th in this draft. He went 187th, so I only missed there by 8 slots in the draft spot. Kayshawn goes to New England, and I got a text when Kayshawn was drafted, said, do you think Belichick can straighten him out, or do you think he flames out and gets cut? And I said, wait a second. Like, this is not a guy who was, like, running afoul of the law his entire time in Baton Rouge or just doing something egregious all the time and couldn't get his head screwed on right. This is a guy who his departure from LSU was a little rocky, but it's not like he's some sort of bad apple or bad seed here. Now, his production slipped, and the injury may be a significant deal. I don't know either one of those, but it's not like he needs to be straightened out. He needs to play well because he's certainly not guaranteed a roster spot in New England. But there's a chance he could make the team. And I laugh about Kayshawn going to New England. It just feels like New England never takes skill guys high in the draft. Like, how long were we waiting for them to get Tom Brady receiver? They finally, at a certain point, got him Randy Moss, and he sets the touchdown record. And they go have a perfect season. But Kayshawn going to New England, hopefully it works out for him. I did not have Jarek Bernard-Converse getting drafted. He got drafted with the 204th selection. I actually had Mekhi Garner going 204. So LSU corner at 204, I hit. I just had the wrong one. I thought Garner's size and his ability to play man-to-man and what he did stepping up from the Sun Belt to the SEC last year would have gotten him drafted. I didn't know if Bernard-Converse's measurables were quite good enough, even though he did have a nice last year here in Baton Rouge. Turns out that Jarek Bernard-Converse does go 204. Mekhi Gardner goes undrafted. I also had Ollie Gay going 231. That's in the 7th round. He did not get drafted. Ollie Gay signed on with the Texans. Mekhi Gardner signed on with the Eagles. So great roster that he's trying to make his way onto. And I mentioned Jarek Bernard-Converse does go to the Jets with a 204th pick in the draft. So did a really nice job on Ojulari. Only missed that slot by 1. Good job with me on Kayshawn. Missed his by 8. Missed Jay Ward's only by 6. Way off on Jaquelin Roy by 60 spots. Anthony Bradford I missed by 42. I switched my LSU corners, Jarek Bernard-Converse and Mekhi Gardner. Then you got Ollie Gay there that I had getting drafted and did not get drafted, which if you would have told me when we walked off the field with masks on in front of 20% capacity, that after that Mississippi State game where KJ Costello set that record that Ollie Gay was not going to get drafted, I would have wagered significantly against that. He just looked incredible in that first game against Mississippi State in the COVID year. And It just he got banged up a little bit, and just the production wasn't there. He's on the all-uniform team. There's no doubt. You get that guy dressed out in some pads, he looks the part of the NFL guy. Just the production at LSU, not quite there. So, look, LSU has, 6 guys drafted, which is a pretty good run there. I saw some statistics that were pretty crazy about the draft over the last couple of days. Texas A&M, in the Jimbo Fisher era, 5 years, they have only had 2 players selected in the first or second round in the Jimbo era. And you wonder if this is like make or break for Jimbo, because at what point, what are you selling? The offense has been terrible. Outside of the COVID year, the teams haven't excelled, and you're not putting anybody in the draft either. Like, what's the selling point over there? Fancy new stadium? NIL dollars? Okay. But there's just not much to show for it in terms of wins or losses. And I didn't realize their draft output had been that bad, because the recruiting input, which should correlate to the draft output fairly normally, is not. Because they're signing top 10 classes every year, signed the number 1 class a couple years ago, and what's coming out on the other end? It's a bizarre thing. And they get into a little back and forth with Texas about who's putting more draft players or who's recruiting better. Well, why don't y'all win some games that matter? How about that? But a pretty good weekend for LSU football. Not certainly what we saw 3 years ago with that draft that put 5 guys in the first round, but certainly a great outcome for BJ, Anthony Bradford, Jaquelin Roy, Jay Ward, Kayshawn, and Jarrett Bernard-Converse, who were all selected. And I was reasonable with my picks. Just a total airball, and Jaquelin Roy missed by 60 spots. Missing by 2 rounds. That's a tough scene. All right, when we come back, going to get you caught up on some storylines from the SEC baseball weekend that was. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. There's been a firing in the Southeastern Conference already today. So I'll get you caught up on that. And one of my predictions that I made 3 weeks ago is aging like a fine wine. I'll tell you what that is as well next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, live Baton Rouge. Ah, the rain, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Jimmy Charles Haniger for the Monday edition of Game Time. We're across the river. Walk-ons in Burley. Recap of the draft and LSU's big sweep of Alabama. It's Game Time on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We know the LSU Tigers got a sweep of Alabama over the weekend, but what else went on in the Southeastern Conference? Well, that's what I'm here for. Catch you up on all that, so let's get into it. Vanderbilt swept Kentucky. Why did that happen? Because Vanderbilt is good and Kentucky is not. And when Kentucky lost that weekend to Georgia, prior to coming to Baton Rouge, I said this team is not going to win a series the rest of the year. I don't trust anything they do. And they did mount an offensive threat against LSU for a couple days. They got run ruled 16-6 out of the chute, and they were competitive the last 2 days. LSU just found a way to get one of them done. But Kentucky scored 4 runs, then 3 runs, then 2 runs. They hit 1 homer in 3 games. I laid out all the stats for you in the first hour about what's going on in college baseball, and everybody's bashing home runs all over the yard. And Kentucky wants to sack bunt. That's not sustainable. I'm pro bunt. Cade Beloso's safety squeeze on Saturday warmed my soul. I love a well-executed baseball play. It can't be a pillar of your offense in this era. Hit it over the fence. Quit bunting and trying to steal bases. And Kentucky hasn't won a series in a month. And they're not going to win one the rest of the way. Now, Vanderbilt, on the other end, after this sweep, is now 16-5 in league play. They are knocking on the door of clinching the top 8. They're a half game up on LSU for the conference title. I'm a curmudgeon. I got asked. It's the same vein as when the Cubs lost a perfect game a couple of weeks ago. Drew Smiley had a perfect game, and they made a mistake trying to field a bunt, and he didn't have the perfect game. And I got a couple texts like, how pissed are you? That's not my thing. I care about winning championships. So they won the game. That's good. I'm excited. As far as the perfect game, I can take it or leave it. And so for the conference championship would be great. If LSU won the conference championship, that'd be great. I don't really care about it, but that'd be great. But if you care about it, that's perfectly reasonable. Vanderbilt's a half game up on LSU. Here's what Vanderbilt has left. They're at Bama. Then they're at Florida, back-to-back road weekends. Then they've got Arkansas. So Bama, Florida, Arkansas. It is a significantly tougher road than what LSU has to navigate. Those have asked me if LSU and Vanderbilt had the same number of losses and Vanderbilt has one more win, they would, by percentage points, be the SEC champion. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Vanderbilt sweeps Kentucky. Kentucky's now 11-10 in league play. Is Tennessee getting hot? They might be. They swept Mississippi State. The Vols scored 33 runs in 3 games. Mississippi State can hit a little bit. They hit 7 home runs over the weekend. They knocked Chase Dolander out after 3 innings. Like, they can hit a little bit. They can't pitch at all. Just getting knocked all over the place. Tennessee's won 6 straight SEC games, and they got Georgia next, who's not awesome. So the Vols may be figuring it out. Now, how would they get to a host site? Tennessee, probably over their last 9 to host, needs to go 6-3. That would put them at 17-13 and right in the mix to host. Not something we thought we'd be saying 2 weeks ago when they were 5-10 in the league. But you sweep a couple, changes the math in a hurry. Vols look pretty good with that new look rotation. You got Lindsey at the front end, Dolander in the middle, Burns at the back end, Beam at the back end, and then Burns now as a reliever, where he's been very, very good. So Tennessee sweeps Mississippi State, who just cannot pitch or play defense. More sweeps. Florida swept Missouri. Missouri has been swept 4 times already this year. They are 2-16 since they swept Tennessee in the opening weekend. What happened that day, that weekend in Columbia? I know it was cold, but how that happened, I don't know. 2-16 since then. Jack Caglione has 25 home runs now. He's going to hit 30 bombs. And Florida has really found something at closer with Brandon Neely, who I think looks great. We talked about LSU and whether or not Thatcher Hurd was their closer earlier. I'd say definitively he is not. They don't have any defined roles in that bullpen right now. But Neely has kind of emerged as Florida's stopper and closer, and he's looked good. He had a couple of saves in the weekend over Missouri. So, again, Missouri been swept 4 times already in league play. Auburn beat South Carolina 2 out of 3. I put a little hex on them. I told you South Carolina was the best team in the league 2 weeks ago. I told you Florida was the best team in the league 2 weeks ago. They get swept. I told you South Carolina was the best team in the league last week, and they lose 2 out of 3 to Auburn. In games 1 and 2, Auburn just flat took it to South Carolina. They beat them 8-3 and 9-5. Will Sanders, South Carolina's 8s, give them 8 earned runs. Auburn, they do have some guys that can hit. Cooper McMurray has been solid all year. He had 2 home runs in game 2. In that game, after an inning and a half, it was 6-0. South Carolina came back and won game 3, salvaged one, but they're now 14-6, which is a game behind LSU. They're the only 2 that will play 29 conference games as of this point. Tigers with a 1-game lead on South Carolina. Arkansas swept the Aggies, which surprised me a little bit. A&M had won 3 or 4 weekends in a row, playing okay, but they just don't have the pitching. And they gave up 25 runs in the 3 games. It's happening quickly to A&M. Arkansas was up 8-0 in game 3 right out of the chute, and A&M, to their credit, kind of scrapped and fought and clawed, and they got it back to 8-7. Big home run for LaVallette in the 9th to cut it to 1, but they weren't able to get over the hump. Something happened in Fayetteville, though, to this A&M team that I'll keep an eye on. I'll just file it away. And you know, sometimes we overreact to things, and I'm fairly confident this is an overreaction, but it's something I'm going to file away. Arkansas had beaten A&M the first 2 games of that weekend. And then in game 3, Arkansas had a big lead. And A&M made a defensive miscue. They threw a ball in, missed the cutoff man. The ball rolled into no man's land, went into the dugout, and gave Arkansas 2 more bases. And A&M almost got into a fight with itself. 2 guys, don't know either one of their names, were screaming at each other, in each other's face. The group kind of came together and was yelling. It was an internal thing that was basically like, hey, snap out of it. We're getting our butts kicked all over the place. This is an embarrassing effort. We got to figure something out. And from that point, they outscored Arkansas 7-0. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it was a little bit of a rallying cry. We'll find out pretty quick because A&M's got Florida coming to town this weekend. And if they don't win that series, they're in a little bit of trouble. Right now, A&M's 9-12 in the league. If you lose that series to go to 10-14, you're probably going to have to win 4 of the last 6. It's pretty important that A&M beats Florida 2 out of 3 this weekend. They got swept against Arkansas. Last piece to that series, and this is interesting to me, because Jim Schlossnagle had a great job at TCU. They were perennially an Omaha contender. They were in Omaha a lot. They hadn't climbed the mountain, but it was a great program. In the Metroplex, good facilities, had good players. He had a good situation, and he left for Texas A&M. He has now, on multiple occasions, openly and brazenly bashed A&M's facilities. His home, where he works. They're up there at Baum Walker this weekend playing Arkansas, get beat, and he's talking about in postgame how that's a college baseball environment. That's what we've got to have in College Station. We got to build this facility. He's really putting heat on the administration to build a stadium. Now, the guys over at TexAgs are fully believe that it's going to happen, but it's just like, that seems like something you would do internally, but to go on the record in front of a microphone multiple times in your second season, while, oh, by the way, at Texas A&M, you're 9-12 in the conference and just got swept. I just don't know if it's a time right then and there to start clamoring that you got to improve the facilities and saying how yours aren't very good, and you took this job knowing what kind of resources it were. If Kim Mulkey wants to win a national championship and then say we need a new PMAC, okay, I'll listen. You're 9-12 in the league, and you're going to complain about not having a new stadium? That's fresh. Go win some games. You got a good enough stadium to win baseball games. I promise. So that was just an interesting thing that I found. And I don't know how the A&M folks are receiving it, but it felt a little much to me. Ole Miss beat Georgia 2 out of 3. First SEC weekend win of the year for Ole Miss. 7-3 Ole Miss was the score on Friday. 7-3 Georgia was the score on Saturday. And then the Rebs get a walk-off on Sunday. So about as evenly matched a series as you're going to get. TJ McCants with the walk-off single to score Utermark. And the Rebs get a win, but neither one of these teams is going to the NCAA tournament. Ole Miss is 5-16 in league play. They are toast. And Georgia sits there at 8-13. They've probably got to get to 14 wins, which means they're going to have to go 6-3 over the last 9. As you look at Georgia's schedule, we know they finish with LSU, which is not going to be a picnic. And they also have Tennessee coming up this weekend. So it just doesn't feel like Georgia's going to have enough to climb the mountain and get there. So as you look at the standings in the SEC, Tigers atop the West now, even with Arkansas sweeping because LSU swept, they kept pace and stayed ahead by a game and a half. LSU 15-5, Arkansas is 14-7. Alabama, Auburn, and A&M all deadlocked at 9-12 in SEC play. You got Mississippi State at 6-15, and the Rebels of Ole Miss at 5-16. Over in the East, Vanderbilt is the leader in the conference right now by half a game over LSU. They are 16-5. South Carolina is 14-6. That is a game south of LSU. Florida's 14-7. Kentucky and Tennessee both 11-10 and going in very, very different directions. Georgia is 8-13, and Missouri bringing up the rear over in the East at 5-16. They are tied with the Ole Miss Rebels there as cellar dwellers. So that's your look around the Southeastern Conference. All right, when we come back, we're going to play Take It or Leave It. We want to do that, but we're also going to take a look at something that did not happen in LSU football that I think is important. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
FanDuel is the only sportsbook app where you can bet the Kentucky Derby. It's happening this Saturday. Right now, all customers can get a no-sweat Derby bet up to $20. That means you'll get $20 back even if your win bet doesn't win. They got great promotions like this every day on FanDuel. It's safe, it's secure, and the best part, when you win, you get paid instantly. So bet America's #1 race this Saturday with America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit racing.fanduel.com/1045ESPN for your chance to get a no-sweat Derby bet up to $20 this Saturday for the Kentucky Derby. That's racing.fanduel.com/1045ESPN. Must be 21 and reside in Louisiana. Offer valid on first Derby win wager. Verified FanDuel racing account required. Refund issues knowledgeable racing site credit. Expires 6/12/23. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel. Racing.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who knows a gambling problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Turn my music high, 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 high. Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood.
For Tuesdays Off the Bench, as T-Bob Hebert is back from wherever he was on Monday, Nick Underhill of New Orleans.Football joins the show to talk Saints, and we have a new OTB mailbag. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
As y'all know, the Dreams Come True Radiothon took place in all of April. Our listeners were just so awesome. We're going to be able to make a number of wishes come true for some kids here in Louisiana fighting illness in our state. And so we appreciate y'all for being so generous with your funds and doing that all month long in April. We did have a raffle, and we've got winners. So I want to go ahead and announce some of those. The LSU autograph merch pack with Justin Jefferson signed LSU helmet, and Justin and Jamar Chase framed wall print is Andrew McNichol. Andrew can pick the helmet up now, and hopefully by the end of next week can pick up that wall print. But Andrew McNichol wins the LSU autographed merch pack. LSU autographed merch pack signed with Aaron Nola, Austin Nola mini bat ball picture. That's Hobie Niederhofer. Shout out to Hobie. You win some Aaron Nola, Austin Nola signed stuff. Trip for two to CMA Music Festival in Nashville. Carolyn Taylor wins that. Grant Miller is the winner of our concert ticket package with 5 shows: Thomas Rhett, Zach Bryan, Guns N' Roses, Depeche Mode, Hardy. So Grant Miller can pick that up. And CMA awards signed guitar by Cody Johnson, Jelly Roll, Kelsey Ballerini, Parker McCullum, many, many more. That is Cindy Rue who won that. So shout out to everyone who donated Dreams Come True over the last month. And shout out to the winners who got some prizes for that raffle. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It. Jacob Beck.
All right. Garrett Nussmeier didn't enter his name into the transfer portal, which closed on Monday morning. Nussmeier will throw 50 passes for LSU next year. Take it or leave it.
50. That's an interesting number. Well, obviously, if Jaden Daniels were to go down, it would be the over easily. I don't know that in the course of a season where Jaden Daniels doesn't go down, that Nuss will throw it 50 times. I will leave that. I think it's close. I think he does throw some passes, get into some games. But I'm hoping that Jaden Daniels doesn't get hurt, in which case it would be very much the over. So I think that is big news for LSU for sure, though. In this day and age, you can never feel very comfortable with what a guy running in the second team is doing when the transfer portal opens. And Garrett Nussmeier decided to stick it out in January, decided to go through spring ball. We sit here now in May, and he's still around, going to be here in the fall. That is, I think, great news. And as I've said a couple of times, and will continue to say as we move into the football season, like LSU really is in a good spot at quarterback. You've got a returning, productive, dynamic player at quarterback who can win you a championship, and you've got a backup who has proven he's absolutely got the chops to play at this level. If you've got to go to him, whether it's an injury or the offense is bogged down or whatever the reason may be, he can help you too. And in this day and age of the transfer portal, that is very rarely the case, I would imagine. So LSU, I think, in really good shape, and pumped that Garrett Nussmeier is sticking around.
It is worth noting he had 84 attempts last year. So
yeah, that's
food for thought.
That's a lot. And he played a ton in the SEC championship game, played a lot in the bowl game as well.
All right, interested to see where this one goes. School fairs, take it or leave it.
You got to take it. I was blown away. We went to the Our Lady of Mercy School Fair over the weekend. I was thinking it was going to be like, a couple of folks like doing face painting or something for the kiddos and maybe some cotton candy here or there, some tents set up. There's rides everywhere. There's a Ferris wheel. There's a gravity machine. There's a stage with bands. It was nuts in there. They had 15 restaurants in there dishing out great food from Baton Rouge. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how much fun Myers man had. He's a year and a half old, but his dad had some fun, so that was great. Shout out to Brain across the hall, who was a big part of the Mercy Fair. It was a lot of fun, so I will take that for sure.
Members of the media were petitioning to have Mel Kiper Jr. inducted into the Hall of Fame. Take it or leave it.
I'll take that. I'll take it. Now the draft has become a monster media event. We know that. It turned into 3 days with this unbelievable amount of coverage and content, and they move it all over the place. I mean, it's a huge deal now. It wasn't when Mel started this, and it's a job where you're going to get it wrong a lot, and you can go back and play hot takes where he said this guy was going to be that or that guy was going to be this, and you never really know. There's a reason why teams don't always hit on their draft picks, but it's the biggest sport we have. It's one of the biggest events in the sport, and he's been front and center for 4 decades. I mean, that's a big deal. Baseball does a great job of honoring its longtime writers by inducting them in with the Ford Frick Award, and I think that Mel Kiper's spot in the game of football should be talked about, because before this became the biggest thing, in the spring, he was in there grinding, telling you about draftable players. So like him or hate him, I don't know a lot of people that hate Mel Kiper, but I do think that his spot should be reserved in the history of the game.
I think I'd have to agree with you, but the thing about Mel Kiper, man, it's like that's gonna be the best job in the world. Like, I think it's a lot of prep, but it doesn't matter if he gets it right or wrong. Right. Either way, either way, he's still got his job and he gets to do what he does every year. So for me, that's like, man, I envy that position.
For sure. I think and he does do radio every Saturday with Dari, so there's a little bit more that goes into it than just, hey, show up for these 3 days and make sure you know all these players.
Right.
He does full-time gig, but yeah, I think I would put him in the hall. That's sure.
Yeah. Our last one here. The Bruins wasted the greatest regular season in NHL history, lost in Game 7 to the Florida Panthers in the first round of the playoffs. The Bruins season might be the biggest letdown in sports history. Take it or leave it.
I will leave it. Look, the ones that have been brought in are the 73-win Warrior team that got to the final and didn't get it done. Of course, the Patriots when they went 17-0 and got to the Super Bowl and didn't finish it, and Eli beat them. But this happens in hockey. There are upsets in every round of the hockey playoffs. This year notwithstanding, the NBA is usually real chalky, and you get the best two teams at the end. This year hasn't been that way, and that's very exciting and that's very good. But it usually is chalky. In the NFL, you usually kind of have a pretty good feeling of who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. In hockey, it's got a lot of more chance in it. It's very much like baseball in that way, and so not totally shocking they would do it. I would put what the Patriots did in not beating the wild card Giants as a bigger waste of the accomplishment. That Giants team they played was fine, but it certainly wasn't a historic team. And to let that get off the hook, I think, is a bigger letdown than a hockey team losing a series, which just happens just about every year. So it's definitely food for thought. And I'll tell you this: when I don't watch 3 periods of hockey, that's just not going to happen in my house. But if Twitter tells me a hockey game's going to overtime, I'm going to that game because that is great television because it's back and forth almost at a basketball-esque pace. And if you score it, you win. Like baseball, it usually takes a little bit of time. No, in hockey, you're flying down there, it could be over in a flash. And that is great TV. Again, first period, you're probably not going to catch me watching a ton of hockey, but I'll lock it into overtime, sudden death, especially if it's a Game 7. That's quality viewing. So that's a crushing loss there for the Boston Bruins. That'll do it for us here. Open the show talking LSU and Bama. State of college baseball in the second segment. Talked about the offensive outburst that we have now seen and where LSU fits in there and what this pitching staff can accomplish in the postseason. Are they good enough to win a championship? Yes, and I kind of laid out the case why that's the case at 1:15. Musso jumped in at 1:30, talk a little baseball. Always appreciate him for jumping on. We talked Steph Curry at the end of hour number 1. Saints draft at the top of hour 2. LSU players in the draft at 2:15, and then some SEC baseball weekend reaction at 2:30. You can catch it all on demand, 1045ESPN.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. It is all there. Search Hunt Palmer Show. We appreciate a like, subscription, a rating, or a review. We'll have Glenn West and Sharif Ishak tomorrow talking Saints and LSU. Jimmy Ott's Game Time tonight, 6 to 8. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We'll see you tomorrow on the Hunt Palmer Show.